Welcome back, everybody. For animal lovers, our pets are our babies. My dogs sleep with us, they eat with us, they pretty much go everywhere we go. And so to lose a pet is to lose a member of the family.
So true. So here with how to help our pets live longer, healthier lives is Chief Emergency Veterinarian, Dr. Rebecca Greenstein. Welcome back.
We have a lot to get to when it comes to pet health. So let's just jump straight in with diet, one of the most important things for a pet owner. But what I have been finding is that pet owners like to take human food trends and then pass them on to their dogs. For example, raw food diets, gluten-free diets. All of a sudden, they think Fido needs this. Is this true?
Well, celiac disease or a gluten intolerance really isn't that recognized in dogs and cats, so there really isn't a strong medical foundation for that. In terms of raw food diets, I'm going to say something a bit controversial. There's so much documented evidence that there can be a salmonella or an E. coli contamination risk. As an emergency vet, I'm not a huge supporter, also if they have bones in them. So the commercially available pet foods are certified to be nutritionally complete, so they meet the requirements like fats, carbs, nutrients, minerals. When in doubt, you may want to stick to those.
Okay, so we feed our Bella a mixture of kibble and then people food, and the people food usually involves meat in it. Is that okay?
You're not alone in doing that. The important thing to keep in mind when you're supplementing with meat is it has to be bland, so you can't fry it, it can't be seasoned, it can't have anything that's potentially toxic, like onions or garlic or anything like that.
Okay. Really?
Yeah, very important.
You are dropping knowledge. Look at that. Yeah, that's big. That's big.
Okay, so let's talk about treats. We have two dogs. My husband actually grinds up the peanut butter for our dogs. We don't buy the jarred, bottled ones. So it's unsalted and roasted peanuts. Is that okay?
Well, nut allergies aren't a huge thing for animals the way they are with, let's say, children. But the important thing to keep in mind is the fat content. So fat content being high can cause anything from, let's say, simple tummy upset all the way to more serious conditions like inflammation of the pancreas or pancreatitis.
Okay, so we talked about diet. Let's talk about exercise. I mentioned my two dogs. They're beagles. Beagles are prone to be fat. I do not want fat beagles.
No.
So our beagles are fit, and that's because they walk on average 8 kilometers a day. Now,
wow,
it's really working for their heart health and for their fitness. They look great. But I'm starting to worry about the mileage that I'm putting on their joints. And as they get older, we have stairs in the house. If that's going to be a problem. So what do you think?
That's a really valid concern. So I don't think it's in question now that exercise is good for cardiovascular health, it helps combat boredom, pet obesity, which is a really big deal, but it does, the mileage, as you were saying, does wreak havoc on their joints. So especially if they're, let's say they have a history of hip dysplasia, or it's a larger dog, over 50 pounds, can lead to chronic arthritis. So if you're gonna exercise them, and I do recommend that you just wanna avoid hard surfaces like asphalt, or you may wanna instead exercise them on a softer surface that's more shock absorbing, like grass. As well, swimming is a low impact, very, very good activity for them, or walking on a partially submerged treadmill.
It's
a thing.
Yeah, that sounds like very weird. But our cat, Sally Hot Dog, he was an indoor-outdoor cat. Name. That is his name, correct. He started out as a stray indoor-outdoor cat. As he's gotten older, he's around 13, 14 now, and he doesn't go out as much, but he still does go out. Are there things I should be worried about as he's older, being a cat that does go outdoors?
Anytime a cat leaves the comfort of your living room and goes into the wild, absolutely they're dangerous, being hit by a car, being attacked by a raccoon or a coyote, but I totally respect the fact that some people still like to have that indoor-outdoor lifestyle. Here's the really key thing. You want to have their vaccines up to date. It's mandatory, okay? So the vaccines being up to date, making sure their parasite control, their deworming is up to date, and also check on them. If your cat's leaving the house, you want to know what's their condition when they're leaving, and if they come back in, are there any new wounds, any lumps and bumps, any limping that you may not miss because they kind of go out freely.
Okay. Let's talk about breed-specific diseases. I mean, you would hope that people getting into dogs, for example, have done their research. But even me as a seasoned dog owner, I lost my dog last year, Sultan, who's a Doberman, to an enlarged heart, which is called DCM, dilated cardiomyopathy. And even as a seasoned dog owner, it wasn't something that I thought was going to strike us. So what do people need to know about diseases that hit certain breeds more than others?
Deciding to bring a pet into your home is one of the most important decisions that you'll ever make. So it makes perfect sense that you want to be an informed consumer. So when it comes to Dobermans, unfortunately, DCM or dilated cardiomyopathy is something that runs in their line. So does bloat if they're a larger dog, the same way that, let's say, for a Shih Tzu, eye problems can be an issue.
That's what you have.
That's what I have, a Shih Tzu. Bella's a Shih
Exactly.
Tzu.
So it's not so much size related as breed related. And listen, things can arise spontaneously, but do your research, just like you would for anyone else important or any other big purchase in your life.
Yeah.
Our dog Marcus, we lost him 2-3 years ago to a form of skin cancer. Now, Marcus lived the life. Like he'd, tap on the door and be like, the sun's out, it's my time. And he'd be out there all the time sunbathing for most of his life. So should we have been using sunscreen on Marcus? And also, I feel like I'm hearing more and more about dogs and cancer. Is that just anecdotal, or is there research to suggest that cancer is rising in dogs?
Okay, so two parts to that. The first part is sun exposure in dogs. It doesn't seem like something you should be worried about, but you should. There are vet-approved sunscreens that you can use because they all are vulnerable. If they have, let's say, a thin coat or they're lightly pigmented around their nose, their armpits, their bellies, they actually can get painful burns, and occasionally that UV exposure is a risk factor for cancer. To answer the question about cancer in pets in general, well, it's a really big debate. Is it more frequent? I think it's a question of we're detecting it more because the level of sophistication is so much more. We're looking for cancers. A while ago, you might say, oh, I don't know, my dog died of old age back in the day. Now we're looking into it. We've CAT scans, x-rays, we can detect it a lot better.
So, let's talk about grooming when it comes to pets, because Sally Hot Dog, he seems to sometimes have some issues. You'd think they would be able to be self-sufficient, but they're not. And I find that as he gets older, he gets worse at taking care of himself, and yet he hates going to the vet to get groomed. So what's the best advice for dealing with grooming?
So some cats are meticulous groomers, but with age, as they gain weight, or they're ill, that can sort of go to the wayside. A lot of problems that we see are in the summer with sick or overweight cats who go outside. They can get matted fur, and sometimes some of their poop can get stuck to it, and that makes them a really vulnerable target to maggot infestations. I can't even tell you, the first time you see that, you never forget it. So I cannot think of a better motivation to keep your pet groomed and just be aware of what's going on in their body to make sure no one's hitching a ride.
Be aware. Be aware. We love talking about pets, but it's even better when we see them.